These three on the right, well, that's my family. My two boys and my wife. That's not our car. I wish it was. I want to share a roll of film that I recently shot. It's 35 millimeter black and white, Ilford's HP5. And I want to share the whole roll beginning to end. Now, why do I want to do that? Well, let me back up a little bit. Right, I was recently traveling across the country, flying, and I sat next to a professional photographer. He pulls out his laptop and he's there editing a recent job. He probably had 10,000 photos, right? He was shooting with a digital camera that shot more than 10 frames a second, and he was mostly just firing away. And I watched him edit it down to about a best 50 or so. And from those 50, I personally thought there was maybe one good photo. This is so opposite to my philosophy when I'm shooting film, especially, but also just my personal philosophy. I like to string together a strong sequences of images on one roll. I challenge myself in that way. And I also think it's a good way to share with other people a full roll because you see the good ones, you see the bad ones, you see sort of what we're working on, right? I think it's revealing. So that's why I share a full roll. Now, quickly, because there are a lot of photographers that watch my channel, just going through just some basics about what I did here. So I'm shooting on a Leica M2 with an Abrahamson rapid winder. The lens for the whole roll is a Zeiss 35 2.8. HP5, I'm shooting at 800, but I'm always metering by eye. My developer is undiluted Xtol at 68 degrees, 11 minutes agitation on the minute, so that's Ilford's recipe. And then I think I won't say anything else. I'll let you read that if you want to. Okay, so back to the pictures. Now this is actually frame 2, so I need to back up to frame 1, right, in the spirit of showing you the entire roll. Now I'm about to leave on a trip, a work trip, so this is the day before I'm leaving, and right, just a picture of my two boys. And we're actually on our way to go get some dinner, stopping by a toy store first for pick up a birthday present. Now, I like the car over here. I mean, I like the picture, but right, I like the car over here, and I want to get in here a little bit, right? If you're not that familiar with HP5 or shooting black and white film, right? The tonality here, the grain, the image structure is beautiful, right? Sign me up for it. You know, I've been reading a bunch of Lee Friedlander books, and right, he likes to take pictures of himself or his shadow, so I'm doing that a little bit. Right, what's catching my eye here are the shadows of the traffic lights. I think this is probably the weakest image on the roll. Right, but I was trying to make something of this, of what's on this air conditioning unit. No, this is this is the weakest image on the roll. So again, I'm trying to get my shadow, and I sort of like it. It kind of worked out, but this was a misfocus. I was with my family and they didn't have much tolerance for me taking my time, and I quickly focused on the brick wall, which, if you're familiar with focusing on a brick wall, like, it's easy to accidentally overlap the wrong bricks, and that's what I did. Okay, the rest of this roll are airport pictures. So this is Portland PDX. And now I'm in Chicago O'Hare, and this is where I have a layover. And I end up finishing this roll during the layover. So these are all inside Chicago O'Hare. Right, there's a Kudelka shot that I always sort of think about. It's the people walking in the street with the strong shadows. Right, I like the different checkered patterns going on here. Now my attention was the shadow on this white wall. But it's also sort of interesting that there's like a door. How many of these things are doors? What is that thing in the middle? Oh, it's, well, electrical room, I guess. And at this point, I start thinking that maybe I was gonna do a series of sort of places in the airport that don't really draw your attention. Kind of, right. This is the shadow and the lighting, and but sort of the part of the airport where there weren't really many people. I kind of like that idea. It's like, oh, that's what I'll go photograph. And then I guess I just started to, I switched my idea uh, because it is fun to photograph people. And I think a lot of this was actually just dictated by where the light was nice, right? Right, you see this nice skylight coming in. I like this guy's shirt. Checking out his phone. Now that's going to be a theme here, and I want to reflect on it a little bit. I also like his little curly hairs right here. Now she's also on her phone, and I like this contrast of her versus this model in the, I guess her name's Sarah, who teaches yoga. And this guy in the background. Now she's also on her phone. Now that's going to become a little bit of a theme here. But before I move forward, doesn't HP5 look really good? Right? I love the tones. I love the grain. Now, if my images seem contrasty to you, they're really not, right? The thing about HP5 is it has tons of latitude, and it actually is a lot of information in the highlights and in the shadows, right? And I could show you that, but maybe just trust me. Right? HP5 is it's a very flexible, and it sort of is what you make of it. And so if you're not loving your HP5 photos, right, that may just be on you. Again, she's on her phone. I really like this one, though. I like this bag here in the foreground. Right, the tones and the texture on that are great. I feel like the grain here is It's like there's lots of beautiful tones and grain, and this woman hiding. Right, and again, I'm borrowing quite a bit from Kudelka, who likes to have nose profiles. And again, right, I'm using her nose profile. And this is one of my favorites on the roll. I like her sort of looking out the frame and sort of the streaks coming down, crepuscular in nature. And this one too, right? It was such a great scene, but now I have a different person. I'd say equally as interesting. And again, I really like that side profile. And again, she's on her phone. Now, what is it about me taking pictures of people on their phone? I mean, it's a little bit like if you're I don't steal wallets, but I figure if I did, right, you look for people who are distracted enough that they're not going to notice that I'm taking their photo. But also, like, this is just what people do these days, especially in the airport. But my neck hurts. Do you also have neck and back problems? And it may have something to do with how much time I'm on the phone. Now, I like the checkered floor here, and I like that the darkest blacks are the subject, and the beautiful high tones. Oh, I like this one. And I like that his face is caught right halfway in the shadow line. The downward gaze. The Chicago, right? The reflection of the Chicago. Yeah, this is like some lights up in the ceiling that were reflecting in the floor, and yeah, I struggled to know how to focus on this one, and I think I did pretty good. I was waiting for maybe a person to come across, get a little more, some feet in the picture, but I sort of got tired of waiting. Yeah, I like her again on her phone, the downward glance. I like her hair here, that fireman in the background. I like her little phone finger. And now these two people working, I really try not to take pictures of people at work on their jobs. Right, somehow that feels a little wrong. I don't know what else to say. But I just had to get this one because they were both on their phones, right? The symmetry here. The cool wall that had nice light on it. Now, right, I'm taking a picture of this hand on the right. Yeah. Right, I'm going down the escalator, anticipating, right, waiting for this to come into frame. And there she is again, right, with her phone finger out. I mean, this is not the same woman, right? But also, up above, right, you see her in the reflection. The ceiling is reflective here. I like this, the top, like the right side of the image and the top right, that triangular and all this, like, right, artsy geometry. Now, think about how bright it is outside. It's a full sunny day, middle of the day. HP5 is doing a good job of getting some interior tones. Now, the sky sort of blew out a little bit. I mean, right, it sort of flattens all the tonality. And if I tried to add micro contrast in there, it would get pretty grainy, right? But I guess what I'm actually taking a picture of, right, is this person walking across the street, the lone person here in this big scene. Now, I like this one as a silhouette here, right? I like these figures, his hair, these profiles, that man who looks like he's maybe singing a song. Right, the art in the windows looks cool. This is a police officer who's coming over to feel what temperature, I guess, is coming out of these vents, or if they're on. Right, and the sun, what I had noticed here was the sun was behind a cloud. And all of a sudden the light in this room had changed dramatically from what it just was. It actually was leaving, and then all of a sudden the sun goes behind the cloud, and I come back for one more shot here. Right, I see the trash, I see this cool car and this California scene, and then there's also these people eating lunch on the left. Right, and I think HP5 is doing this one a lot of favors. Now I'll pause for a second and say why HP5. Right, of all the 400 speed films, it has the most ability to get pushed to a higher speed. Tri-X and HP5 shoot 800 almost equally as well. HP5 is a little better. And then, but especially if, like, I'm doing all this metering by eye, right? I'm shooting with an M2, and right, 800 with HP5, even at 800, there's still enough latitude on both sides, underexposure and overexposure, to know that I'm going to get right. I'm not risking being way too far off. And I really wanted beautiful tones. Right, you see those kind of squiggly lights across the floor? And this is one of my few shots where you can see O'Hare in the frame. Now, who do you think this person is? Right? I don't. To me, I guess I assumed that it was somebody on their work break, right? Having some water and just this is where they like to come to relax. Maybe because they didn't have any baggage or anything. Right, somehow like I initially got interested in this kind of wrinkle in the carpet, but then I just start seeing right the diagonals and the different textures in the chair and in the foreground and that little like can in the underneath the chair and sort of some things on the carpet and now I like this guy's really long shadow. There he is on his phone casting a giant shadow. I don't think he's taking a picture of his own shadow. That would have been neat. And I took another one of him because his head started to line up with those circle art prints. And I wanted one of those. Right, notice that the clouds are still there, right? There's no burnout here, right? It's not like a digital camera. And here's my last shot. I actually like the way that, right, these highlighted, right, this sort of, it almost looks like it's pencil drawn, doesn't it? Okay. That's a roll. See you next time.